an incredible weekend. So just going to go over. I'm going to go over a long last week. Just kind of more the narrative around it. Obviously, I'll do the whole trade, and then shorts. Just showing you, how when you're building a narrative, why it's crucial, and obviously, how you can kind of not expect or guess or anything like that, but you can kind of make sense of where price may go next, and obviously with that you can then build out the direction you want to trade in, the trades you want to take, and go from there. So if we just mark out, if we go on the daily quickly, right, we can see that obviously we broke these major levels of structure, and you're expecting a form of pullback, right? Now, yes, we had this. For me, this wasn't actually a boss. I'd be looking at this as one leg. So this is my swing high, this is my swing low. And if we put on the discount and premium, here, you've got this buy to sell that's kind of there. Now, discount and premium I just use as a complement. It's not like a must-have. Obviously, it does help to be better priced in the market, but there'll be times where it may not get there, and there's still a trade opportunity. And if you can make sense of that opportunity, then you just got to take it. Take the risk, lose the chance. So what I'm seeing is obviously that we had this. I don't have daily mark out, so let me do let's do it like that, and then change it to the D. No, sorry, the S. The other one's the D. So obviously we had this flip, right? Real clean flip. Price this demand level broke this level of structure, right? We came into it, we tried to put in a high, we failed. That's a flip, clean as you like, daily flip, right? If you were trading off daily zones, set a limit on that. It should take out this low. Obviously, it's quite low in the leg. Of course, it could come higher. But really nice level to trade from. So it's like, okay, cool. So the reason we may have gone bullish on the 4 hour is for this mitigation, right? And this is why the higher time frame, it takes kind of precedent over the lower time frames. You need to be aware of what the weekly and daily are doing. The weekly's closed below these levels as well. That's such a dodgy line. If I put this here, you can see the weekly's closed below as well. Obviously, we're coming into the bottom of this weekly range. This whole buy to sell price action. Then if you can find something within this that makes sense, then you can obviously look to take the trade. So if we go on the 4 hour, you'll see that obviously we had we took out this low, we then took out this high, we then took out this high, right? So we've just been bullish, right? And we've just been going high, 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 low, high, high. Expectation is a high low, right? Which should break this. But we're mindful that we're coming into that daily supply, right? And this is where we say, you're playing a complex pullback. Yes, it makes sense to look for longs, but you also need to have an exit. It doesn't make sense to look for longs to take out all these levels yet, purely because you want to see the daily sentiment kind of shift as well, and you want to see the weekly sentiment shift. And obviously at the moment they're not. They're still very bearish. So with that, we can kind of theorize that, okay, this bullish change in order flow is likely for this mitigation. And then what it's done is obviously it's stacked all this liquidity for us to then take it out and continue bearish and realign with the daily and weekly structure, okay? So if we just refine the daily to the 4 hour, I had these buy to sells here, like this. So that was a level that for the last few weeks, if you look at my other forecast, you'll see I've had that level marked for a while, talking about how we could potentially reach that level and see lower prices. I also, at the time, am aware that, right, okay, well, we could play a pullback then, At the end of the day, the pullback is essentially on. Now you've got this H4 demand. Now it is a buy candle. I would prefer it to be a sell candle. Obviously you could just move it across. It takes out this previous candle low, but we'll refine that, right? But I'm aware that this is the level, because this is our swing low. This is our swing high. Obviously it broke this high here. So this is that 4 hour range. And if price is to continue bullish to this mitigation, then this should hold, okay? So it should hold, and then it's just a case of getting up to here, and then it should likely will get run, because we just leave a massive pool of liquidity. Why is demand holding? To build liquidity for supply to take control again, right? So if we're looking at it in that perspective, then what we go is, right, well, what can we find within the 15-minute here that makes sense, right? So, and obviously bear in mind we had ECB news on that day. This is Thursday last week, right? So when you've got news, you also have to ask, news is kind of like, it's an opportunity for them to move price in a very aggressive manner. And, if you're aware of a big event like ECB, you have to start thinking, right, what are they likely to do? Now, yes, of course, they could just run it through the floor, but pricing-wise, it doesn't make sense to run it through the floor here. They need to build more liquidity, bring it up to this supply, and then they can run it through the floor flat out, right? So now if we go to the 15-minute, I'm doing this on my Mac, by the way, so the screen is a little bit smaller, but I'm doing it purely because A lot of people have said that when I do it on the bigger screen, it's quite hard to see on smaller devices, and also I'm fed up with the resolution not looking good on my screen. So Mac life it is. Jeez, I've got some boxes here. Right, so if we just refine this 4 hour, so remember we're in this 4 hour, okay? And then if we refine it to this guy here, okay, this is that last sell to buy price action, right? Where this M15 was within that 4 hour level. This candle also takes out this candle low here. Alright, so we've had a little sweep. Okay, so then we can go across to the right and we can say, right, we've got this level. This is now acting as our demand zone. And this is where we believe price could look to run higher, right? Now, obviously, yes, you could say, well, what about all these levels here? You know, we've chopped. Yeah, we have, you know, and there's no denying that. But this is where that whole, well, there's news coming. I'm going to wait, because yes, you can look to trade off of these, right, and probably target these highs, and yes, you can look to short off of these back into these levels, okay? But when you've got news, you just need to make a decision. You know what? It's a big event. Likely we're going to range to build liquidity. Look at how much liquidity we've built in this range, right? We just consolidated. So likely what we're going to do is probably take out the lows, take out the highs, or vice versa, okay? So you can say to yourself, right, well, I've got a POI. I believe this is all going to be inducement, okay? So the likelihood is I'm going to wait. So you set your alert and you just wait. I don't know what time it is. What time is it? 6 in the morning. Okay, so I'm going to fast forward this to more towards when the trades actually come. Okay, here. So 9:45, you get your first tap, right? Now, obviously, you could wait and you could, of course, play that first tap. Or what you could do is you could wait for a M15 bullish chalk. If we've taken out these lows, you could say, I want to see a change of character. There's still news coming. So yes, you could trade this, right? You know, if we go on the 1M quickly, there's no real flip. There's this to the range, and it plays the extreme, which caused chalk. So you could play that, you know, I'll just mark that quickly for you guys. You know, that's kind of that supply range here, but took out this low. Price has come in here, reacted. This, sorry, I forgot on my Mac. This candle didn't take out any liquidity, so likely it becomes inducement. This extreme caused a change of character, so you could play the extreme like that. But again, knowing there's news coming, 2 pips, you know, there. I probably wouldn't, but, you know, completely valid trade. First tap of the 15 minute, if you want to play that, by all means, because it is bullish on the 4 hour. The 15 minute at this moment in time was bearish. We hadn't gone bullish yet. So what you could do though is go, I'm going to wait for the chalk. I'm going to wait for the news event. There's nothing wrong with that. So here, obviously, that's the initial announcement, I believe, gearing up to an ECB, making up my own news events now. Obviously, we get a reaction to this extreme from the day before, and price, you know, kind of starts to sink. Now, oh man, too fast. Obviously, seeing that, right, we've completed a change of character. Okay, we took out this low. Okay, there was no real high here, so I would have just said that was the high, and then now it creates that extreme demand for you there. Okay, so now you've had that kind of sentiment shift. The order flow is shift likely to bullish. We've cleared out a huge amount of liquidity, and what have we left? A huge amount of liquidity. The narrative up here as well, why were these highs left? The narrative we've built is likely to have a pullback, so then have a continuation of daily, weekly trend. So now we go to the 1M. Okay, so if we were in here, you obviously wait for a tap. It nearly clears the whole POI, but it does survive just. If you'd played an entry off this, by all means, you know, you can, it is valid. But, you know, I know Samadhi went over this, so I know this is probably a trade like, oh, whatever. I just wanted to show my kind of thought process behind it, and obviously showing, you know, how the narrative is the key and what's been built. So then it's a case of just waiting, right? Obviously, wait to see what we get. Do we get any reactions? Do we get any flips? Do we get any chalks? So here we start to react to this whole. Again, you can grab the range, right? Here you can obviously when it's small, like just like a doji like that. Same with the higher time frame POIs. I would just play the range, or I'd go up a time frame and just see what's there. You know, you can go on the 2M. You got a 2-minute candle, okay, so I'm like, okay, that's the level I want to play. That's all it is when you see a range. It's not like, oh, it's source. It's just without going up, you're aware that that's what's happened. So here's our reaction, and then obviously we take that out straight away. Now, notice that, you know, with this reaction, it's a real clean sell to buy. And obviously this candle here takes out this low. So you could, this is essentially the sweep, right? Now down here, there's nothing really beautiful. You do have this, right? But for me, it didn't really do anything. You know, this didn't react to the bottom of these ranges. So this is kind of just a push. This is where the battle happened. This is where supply tried to put in a new low and demand said no. And obviously, you know, it gave us that tiny little sweep here, which is popped below than that candle. So I'd be happy to play this sell to buy. If you're really confident, I'd include that wick, right? If you're super confident, you could literally play that. Now, it's something I've been looking at, messing around with, just for refinement purposes. I'm probably never going to trade like that because you'll miss things. But you could just say, well, that in theory is the sweep of this level. If it's valid, it's going to go off that, right? And you probably could just play that. And stock-wise, you could probably roll with a pip. I'm not going to do that, but you can see the power of, look at that, like it's a joke. You know, because you're identifying that little sweep. Now, of course, it could come lower, right? Now, being honest with you guys, for me, I'd have traded it like this, and I would have done 2 pips, because that's what I'm rolling with at the moment. And I would have just put 2 pips anywhere. I don't like, as I've always said, I never like to cover the low bang on. I like to give a little bit of breathing room. So, you know, like something like that. Probably would have had my entry there. You know, and then obviously you get decent reaction. Because you're buying, spread should be in your favour here, so you shouldn't get taken out. If you do, I'll probably get back in. You know, obviously, of course, you could have just played the EQ. But I just wanted to show how you can play. Some of the precision sometimes is ridiculous. And then obviously with this trade here, you know, at minimum you should be targeting that. But if you understand the narrative that's been built, then in theory, then you should be targeting these guys up here, really. Because what's happened here is, you know, the original tap of this, so it's the first, never trust the first high kind of thing, right? I know it gave shorts, but on a bigger scale. Prices come in, obviously it's failed to break lows, it's failed to break demand, so demand is showing it's in control, so likely this all becomes inducement for the above mitigation. Obviously you all know what happens here. Just pull that out. So, you know, off she goes, bang straight into that. You know, depending if you were confident with that, yeah, there's a 1 to 38. I mean, sweet, quarter's done, go and chill out. You know, but I know it's been covered, but I just want you to understand how the narrative, if you go and look at the older markups from a couple of weeks ago, you'll see how these levels were spoken about and how the narrative was talked about. And that's why it's really important to understand the higher time frames, because if you don't, you could think that this 4-hour level here is simply only going to keep going up. So then what happens is now you just start looking for buys, which, yes, don't get me wrong, buys make sense. Of course, you can use these sell to buys or this sell to buy, but overall, the narrative is likely now we're going to see some real aggression. And then if we go to the next day, we go to the 15-minute, right, so I'll get rid of that. That was obviously trade number 1. And then let me move this over. Sorry if the music's really loud, by the way. I just noticed I've got that banging in the background still. So again, we tap into our 15-minute supply, right? Our 4-hour supply, sorry. Now, of course, you can scroll left and you can try and find exactly what it hit. Pinged into something up here. So like these wicks, you could obviously clean it up. But what I would do is, because it's with the trend on the daily and the weekly, I would literally wait for a 15-minute change of character, some kind of order flow, and I'm game. So here we take out that high. Chocky wocky doodah up, chocky wocky doodah down. And then obviously it's about waiting to see if order flow actually confirms, because obviously it's late at night. Of course, I'm not saying you can't play this, but there's the first kind of, you know, it plays this whole buy to sell. Here, obviously this is a sweep, it takes out this liquidity. So again, you want to trade away from the sweep, not into the sweep. Pairing this with a higher time frame narrative with a weekly, daily, you know, 4-hour level with a 15-minute change of character. Now we're starting to see order flow. You know, this level's obviously, I'm not going to redraw it, I'm just going to pull it across. It's had another mitigation, but now this one's followed through. It started taking out demand levels, so we've had demand failing, right? We've obviously been reacting to this big level of demand here. And as you can see, I can't get my words out, mate. As you can see, you know, we've had a reaction. It's reacting, failed. Now, obviously, this is that whole buy to sell range again. And like I spoke about a minute ago, if it's just a doji like that, I won't use it. I will usually just refine it to this level here. And then what I would do is I would just, to double check, if you want to be sure, you can go on the 30-minute and boom, you've got one candle. So you can see that here's the reaction. This candle also takes out these previous candle highs. So it's a sweep. So price doesn't have to come higher. Now, of course, it could, but again, logically and narrative-wise, it makes sense for price to go here. Now, you could just play the open of this. You could just set a limit on it. Boom, job done. Or you could look for a lower time frame confirmation. We're going to look for a lower time frame. Where am I? What time is it? Right, so this, I believe this taps in during, well, it's out of my hours. I think it was here. And there's a trade from this. Obviously here you take this high, we take this low, we have these buy to sell wicks that react, and this one actually takes out that high. So obviously you could look at trading from those, you know, depending where your stop loss is as well and whatnot. And then, oh actually, sorry, my bad, I don't think it ever come to that, sorry. Ooh. Just looking at how price developed there. Obviously then we had multiple sweeps, you know, we took out these highs, reacted to this demand. Now the nicer demand, if you like, was here. And then obviously this candle sweeps that high, so you could look at this and go, oh look, you know, I'm going to trade off of that. Obviously you get your first tap, and then, you know, it just starts to kind of follow trend. What I would say is the lower you're getting in this leg, because of the time in here, sorry you can't see, because of the time in here, I wouldn't be trading until around about here, 7:30ish. Obviously, and that is the first tap, and this is something we speak about a lot. The first high or low into mitigation, a lot of the time can become liquidity. There was nothing really run here. You know, I know this just is equal with that high, but there was no real clean sweep, so I'm thinking that could get taken. If you caught this, I'd be mindful of this demand. So let's say you got in here, you know, 1.5 pips. I mean, it looks massive, doesn't it? 1 to 5's down there. I don't even know if you get that off it. I think it goes, I can't remember. Yeah. So, you know, depending on how your break-even rules, you may have stayed in that. I personally would have been BE when this broke. I started playing more 1M structure and holding full volume. So I'd probably be like this, you know, down here. When this breaks, I'd go break-even. And then I'd say to myself, right, okay, well, you know, I'm BE now, what's it hitting? Do I want to get out? I'm aware it could come higher. And then if we just get it to the point when it does come higher, I believe this hits. It hits it, yeah, it hits these sell to buy wicks. And obviously we get a deep pullback off it. And then price does come in up here. And now I know this was a day where I think caught a few people out. I was watching, I was waiting for the shorts. Now this level here is where I think people kind of got caught out. So if we just run through it. So obviously we've had, you know, you wouldn't really want to play this. We've just completed chop, right? We took out this high. Sorry, I have a child at my feet asking me for lunch. So we took out this high, okay, and then we took out this low. So there's our change of character. Mindful that this guy here sweeps liquidity. So, you know, when you're looking at it realistically, in context, you've got these buy to sells, there's your mitigation. This candle takes out this candle high, so then you could say, well, that's kind of now the extreme. If I can get my stop above the high, I'll happily play it. You know, and that's where you can obviously put it back to the EQ. Mindful, obviously, that sweep could get tested again, but reality is, you know, you should be able to play the open. And then obviously from this instance here, this flip's not, it's not the greatest because there's not a lot there. Obviously, if you go up a time frame, you got, you know, it reacts to these sell to buy wicks on the 5M. But this is also a great example of you can wait until it truly starts to go before you dive in. Obviously, this here would have, you know, whooped you. And the reason for that, in my view, is just due to the fact of there's no flip. It's not the best. It's not the cleanest. This isn't the cleanest trade. But if you do take that hit, fine. But then now you need to kind of pay attention, right? So if we then play it on, you know, price then sweeps this high again. And then you start to see like reactions here to these sell to buy wicks. So you start to look at that and you think, oh, that could be a trade. It then comes and mitigates it. This takes out this high. So I'd want to start seeing this truly failing to give me the change of character I'm after as well. Now, don't get me wrong, change of character, you can say it took out that high and then it took out this low. So we've chalked up here. So yeah, there's nothing great flip-wise. If we go on the 5M, you can see that demand at the moment is still holding. So I'd like to see it fail before I get in. Nothing really jumping out at me here. Obviously, these are a flip, you know, in essence, but I want to see something clean. I'm not rushing my trades. Obviously, I'm risking 1%. It's a big chunk. I want to make sure I'm taking the right stuff and not just taking bang average trades. So I'd wait. I'd want to see demand actually go. I checked on here. I'll show you guys. It came back to this 30-second. Now, it didn't really do a lot, but it mitigated this 30-second, right? So I was like, okay, well, now we've had a mitigation. You know, straight away, I was like, oh, that, because it swept. But remember, demand hasn't actually gone yet, right? And then obviously there, we had our failure, right? This level that was holding for so long has now failed, okay? So you could say to yourself, right, okay, I want to trade that. Now, mindful again that, you know, this didn't really hit anything, which is what put me off in the live market. But this is why markups are so good. It didn't really hit anything, right? It looks like it's just hitting balance, okay? And then that swept that high. Now, you know, if you go up a time frame, the 5 minute, there's literally nothing there. You know, on the 10 minute, you're like, oh yeah, look, it's hit something. But again, I'll be honest with you, I probably wouldn't trade that. But this does make sense. You know, this is essentially, we've pulled back into the bottom of this range, right? Remember, I've spoken about that on the higher time frames. We've pulled back into the bottom of that range, and then we've kind of pushed out, right? So you could quite comfortably, oh, my bad. You could quite comfortably set a limit here, position yourself like that, and you know, BE, when you take that low out, makes complete sense. You could wait a little bit longer and see what happens if we get any clear reactions. Now we've actually had a reaction to something we can kind of make sense of. We've reacted to this demand, and now it's like, okay, well, what caused the fail? Well, you know, again, you've got this whole buy to sell range. This is what you'd be looking at, right? And you know, that makes the most sense. Obviously, if you go up a time frame, you can see there's not a lot there on the 2 minute. The 3 minute, you've now got this whole candle. So you could say, oh, you know what, actually that looks quite nice. Can I get my stop above the high? Now, you can't. So for 2 pips, your stop would need to go almost EQ, which is probably the 1M that we'd had marked. And then obviously from there, see what happens, play it on. Now we get a little tap at the bottom of that range, which is the 3 minute open, and you know, it starts to run. But it's fine. There still was an entry here. Whether you played it or not sure. Whether you played this in the 30 seconds again, not sure. It wasn't the cleanest day, the cleanest morning, but it's always good to do the markup to see that actually there was still bundles of opportunity. And obviously from here, we know it absolutely dies. I'll be honest, I thought these levels would hold a bit more than they did, but she absolutely fell out the sky. It's also why sometimes it's easier just to play the 15 minute level, because as you can see, if you just played 15 minute EQ, or for instance, or the 0.25, you'd have been in that trade stress-free kind of thing. You know, nothing's ever perfect. It's never always beautiful. You have to remember that as a trader. You do have to adapt a lot. It's not always going to be like, oh, look at that, it's so easy. But you can see how both of these trades, narrative perfect, makes complete sense. And the setups, again, are the same thing, you know. So yeah, I hope that helps. I know I've been getting a lot of messages lately saying that they do help. You know, please don't stop doing them even though they're repetitive. I don't plan to, you know. I want to keep doing them every week, just like the rest of the guys in the team, which have been pumping out some unreal content. You know, just to give you all a different insight into how all of us are thinking, how all of us are trading the same way, but with our own little spin maybe, or the way we see things a little bit different sometimes. In intuition in a live market will be that way. And hopefully it gives you an idea that, you know, your trading can be a little bit different, and that's okay. Like, you're trading for you, not anybody else. So yeah, I hope that helped. I hope you all have a cracking rest of your day. Tomorrow is the Zoom again on a Tuesday. I think we're all going to be on it again, which would be pretty cool. So yeah, I'll catch you all there. See you all in the Discord. Have an incredible day. Peace and love, guys.